This video is sponsored by Lament of the Widow Kickstarter, a thrilling mystery and cosmic horror setting for D&D 5e. Live now. Goblins are fun, caves are neat, exploring the labyrinthine world of Morehouse, full of abominations, powerful magic items, and ancient secrets, that's more like it. One of the things that I find most appealing about this setting is that it puts the emphasis on choosing your battles. Most D&D challenges can be solved with the end of something pointy. In the Infinity Manor, you'll have more success carefully exploring and investigating the many rooms and corridors. If you're a DM looking for a great setting, the 100 pages of maps, beautiful illustrations, new items, and unique monsters will keep your players on the edge of their seat. And if you're a player, treat your DM to something great. Back Lament of the Widow now. And now what you're here for. World's worst DM railroads his party and plagiarizes Astashan? Hi everyone. All Things D&D is back with another story. This story was submitted by a viewer who wanted to remain anonymous. It's one thing to fudge a roll here or there to save a party member from death or to keep the story going in the right direction. But this story is a perfect example of what not to do. Also, don't take people's ideas and say they're your own. Not cool. Around 2.5 years ago, I decided I wanted to get into D&D. I had no idea how the game was played, never spectated anyone, nor had I watched any Critical Role episodes. I thought I'd love it just from the description. I was 26 at the time and had just joined a private college for coding, so naturally it was filled with nerds. I'm not using it as an insult, I'm a huge nerd myself. I approached a guy from my class that looked like a social kind of person and asked if he had ever played D&D. He told me he'd been DMing for years. So I asked if we could maybe arrange a one-shot with me and some other colleagues as players. He agrees, we gather in my apartment a few days after, and we have a fun time. Nothing special, but fun nonetheless. Soon after that, we're discussing starting a campaign. I am stoked because I really fancy D&D. We'd be 7 players in the previous DM, playing in a homebrew world that he had built for us, or so he claimed at the time. It was much later that I found out that each and every little detail of his homebrew was stolen from somewhere else. The setting of the world was that, supposedly, something happened a bunch of decades ago and the world is in a sort of post-apocalyptic era. Also, magic was very rare. I played a glamour bard, with your typical orphan backstory. I also wanted to multi-class into warlock at some point, so in my backstory I had typed that the bard can frequently see nightmares with large eldritch horrors approaching him. In my mind, a pact with an old one right in the middle of the campaign would be a very memorable moment, and I was looking forward to it ever since I built my character. First session starts. We're gathered in the main city of the continent, where we're railroaded into an arena. There, we witness the boss of the continent, an absurdly powerful and mystical NPC. Whoop some pirates because they dared disobey him. Full anime description on his movements, followed by 20+ minutes of out-of-game explanation of this NPC. How it was an old character of the DM, how he built him into a broken behemoth in 3.5, etc. We were playing 5e, and we were all newbies, so all this boasting and weird terms about 3.5 was like a foreign language to me. But I thought it was normal, so I just waited for him to finish. He trash-talked 5e all the time, and would always claim that 3.5 was far better. Soon after that, we gather our characters and form a pirate crew. The DM's bestie was our captain, decided by the DM, who conveniently had a boat. Neat. We go on our first quest to get a flag from a distant island. When we arrive, we see mountains of pirate bodies in front of a hut, where 3 NPCs are standing menacingly. We try to talk nicely to them, since we understand that they killed all those people. After a description about their appearance, 20+ minute out-of-game explanation for each of these NPCs again. So 1 hour later, we get back in-game. The NPCs are flexing on us, and are mocking our combat capabilities. We were all level 3, and they were all 20+ multi-classed with artifacts and whatnot. The other players start sucking up to them, so they hand us over the flag, not before they make sure to let us know who's boss, by tossing us around and displaying their magic abilities. We go back to the main city with the flag, we get a small reward, and go about our business. Then, we see a huge ship that dwarfs ours, docking next to us. Some insanely overpowered NPCs jump down, and start to bully us. You guessed it, 20+ minute explanation for each and every one of them too. Whenever I describe an NPC that isn't fodder, assume that the above happens. Anyway, they're like us, but 1,000 times better. Their rogue steals all of our important items. My violin, the cleric's holy symbol, our rogue's daggers, etc., and tosses them to the ground, in what the DM described as a split second. He was pretending to roll for all these shenanigans and always had a grin on his face. After that happened for the first time in this campaign, I started to get annoyed. I thought I'd pull a fast one on those NPCs, so I arranged a huge gig in the arena. I'm the headliner of this event, but I also invite some fodder NPC bards to play with me. The DM describes to me that some very important, overpowered NPCs are in the crowd. While I'm performing, I tell the DM that I cast Enthralling Performance on 5 of them. The spell states that even if they succeed on the save, they have no idea that I tried to charm them, so in my mind at least 2 of these NPCs will get charmed by me. I can ask them for some valuable information, and we can continue the adventure with the new info I will have extracted. The DM rolls. He tells me every NPC passed the 15 DC Wisdom save. Huh, I thought. Unlucky. Very small odds, but whatever. At least I tried something. Then he says, suddenly those NPCs that you tried to charm get up on the stage and start kicking you around. They tell you that you shouldn't have tried to use your cheap magic on them, and now you'll pay the price. I instantly object and tell the DM that the spell states that whoever succeeds on the save has no idea that I tried to charm them. He replies with, they have a very high-level bard with them. He told them what you tried to do. So my bard gets publicly ridiculed and everybody laughs at me. Awesome. After that, the druid gets mind controlled by a house and we try to rescue him. We failed to do so, but luckily for us, yet another overpowered NPC was there to save us and give us our next quest. We're to go to a neighboring village to find the source of the corruption. While there, I tried the enthralling performance trick once again on some locals. Nope, all 5 NPCs succeeded on their saves again. Godly rolls by this DM, I guess. If only he hadn't admitted to us that he would sometimes fudge rolls for the good of the story. Anyway, we understand that the source of the corruption comes from an abandoned mansion. While we approach it, we see 2 children asking for help, telling us their baby brother is trapped in the mansion, and a monster is there too. If it sounds familiar to anyone, yeah, this whole mansion was a total ripoff of the Death House, as I found out months later. At this point, I have to mention that all of the above happened in the span of 2 to 3 months. In the meantime, I had started DMing myself. I followed my DM's example, and all my sessions were railroaded where I wanted the players to go, and I had some OP NPCs of my own. After all, I thought this is the way the game is played. Back to the campaign. We clear the Death House ripoff and arrive in the final room. There, a huge eldritch horror comes out of the water. It demands a new host, or a sacrifice. This was the level where I would multi-class into Warlock, and I had reminded it to the DM numerous times. So I was sure this was the old one I'd make a pact with. For the first time since I started playing D&D, I'm excited to the point where I'm shaking. So I step up to the being, I tell it I've been seeing it all my life in visions, yada yada, edgy Warlock stuff. Then suddenly, the door behind us bursts open, as yet another overpowered NPC comes to save the day. It starts fighting the monster, and the DM tells us that we have to leave the area, or we will all die. As I leave, I try to tell it that it still has time to use me as a new host. I get ignored. So the session ends soon after that. DM says we've leveled up. I ask him, what about the pact with the old one I've been telling you about all this time? He looks at me with a small look of surprise on his face and says, oh, yeah, I totally forgot. When the others are sleeping, you go back to the mansion and grab a book from there. Suddenly, you have 1 level in Warlock. The end. I am extremely bummed out. My character is in shambles, and this is not the way I thought things would go at all. Anyway, the campaign continues. The person that played our captain decides that he doesn't want to play anymore, so we need to decide who gets to be the next captain in his place. The DM tells us that we will have a PvP tournament on our ship. Whoever's the last man standing will be the next captain. I tell them that I have no interest in the position, but I will take part in the tournament for the fun of it. Rules are simple. Whoever reaches 0 HP or gets tossed into the sea gets eliminated. With clever use of spells and some luck on my side, I managed to be one of the 2 players that are left standing in the end. The other one is an insanely powerful cleric, who was given some overtuned items by the DM shortly before the tournament. He was the one that was sucking up to the NPCs the most, so I guess he got rewarded for his sucking. Note here that none of the other players ever roleplayed, hence why I call them munchkins on the title. They were all about combat, so I guess that explains why none of them got annoyed by the way the story went. They also regularly bullied me whenever I tried to roleplay, calling me edgy teen and cringe. Back to the final showdown. It's the powerhouse cleric with the +3 plate armor with 5 different abilities versus my subpar bard/warlock. He has a cocky grin on his face IRL, and he tells me to get this over with, and I should just jump in the water on my own. Joke's on him. I have Repelling Blast as my Eldritch invocation, and he's conveniently standing on the edge of the ship. I get a super lucky hit with an Eldritch Blast, which blasts him into the water in one round. He gets pissed. He would not stop complaining for days. He thinks the ruling was unfair, but even the DM that favored him tells him that the rules were fine, and he really did get tossed into the sea. I was petty as well, and taunted him regularly about his loss. Hey, I don't care. That guy was an ass. In the next session, I tell the party that I'll hear them out and decide who I will make the next captain, since I had no interest in the position myself. His cleric comes up to my bard, calls him names, and demands a battle to the death. I refuse, saying I'm not stupid, but he won't accept it. He tells us that he wants to leave the group, but ultimately decides to stay in the end. But not before he states that he will have justice one day. For that we can be sure. And they called me cringe. To decide on our next quest, my bard goes to the boss of the continent and asks him what we have to do for the upcoming war that's going to take place. He tells me that we need to go around the world, find some really powerful NPCs, tell them what's going on, and they'll take care of it. I ask him what we can do to be a factor in this war. Word by word, his reply was, "You are all powerless whelps. The best you can do is warn the real warriors." Anyway, all the above really bummed me out, and I no longer feel like playing my character after the Warlock multi-class event took place. I didn't even know what my patron's name was, so I tell them I'll be walking out of the campaign. They put it on hiatus since my apartment was our gathering place, and they had nowhere else to go. It was way before COVID hit, so Roll20 and Discord were considered a trash alternative. Fast forward to around a year later. COVID hits, and Roll20 and Discord become the go-to way to play D&D. They want to reestablish the campaign, and ask me to join too. In that year, I had really upped my D&D game, and I understood the way D&D is meant to be played. I also found out about all the ripping off that took place. So, we have a group chat. I go hard on the DM, telling him all the things that were wrong with the campaign. The cleric Munchkin cuts in and says, if your bard wasn't such a murder hobo, maybe you'd have fun with the campaign as well. Well, I guess trying to charm NPCs is considered murder hoboing now. Anyway, the DM tells me he appreciates my criticism. He understands that he's done some things wrong with the campaign, and he'll try to correct them. I decide to give it another shot. After all, a year had passed, and I would no longer be clueless about any future shenanigans. I create a sorcerer and get introduced to the party. We go into a dungeon and have a big boss fight. We're escorted by yet another overpowered NPC that was a blatant ripoff of Astashan, a very well-written necromancer. He claimed it was his own idea, though. I'm a bit annoyed, but it's not like that guy is carrying the whole fight. More like he's assisting us, so I let it slide. I did point out to the DM after the session ended that I liked the way he handled Astashan. It really stayed true to the original. So in a passive-aggressive manner, I let him know that I knew he was plagiarizing again. After that, though, the rulings went totally out of control. We fought a huge tree once. It hit the rogue for 3 damage. I joked and said, wow, if you were level 1, you'd be at half health. Then the DM says that it had multi-attack. It picks up a huge boulder and throws it at me. I cast shield, but the DM then states that it's a crit. Of course it is. It hits me for 70 plus damage, knocking me unconscious. How it can go from 3 to 70 plus damage on the same round is a mystery. The paladin and the cleric Munchkin bullies that called me cringe minutes before. I described that I toss a fireball to the tree in a way that reminded me of a Kamehameha, are refusing to heal me. Combat ends and still nobody heals me. I manage to stabilize by death saves, and luckily the ranger comes to heal me back to consciousness. Then, out of the shadows step not 1, not 2, but a party of 6 overpowered NPCs that our characters instantly recognize as the heroes of the continent and whatnot. As the description for each and every one of them starts, I tell them that my sorcerer asks them why they didn't help us in the fight that almost killed him. I get ignored. I've had it at that point. My sorcerer tells them to drop their weapons or they'll get burned. I get ignored. I declare that I cast Wall of Fire, dexterity save for all the NPCs. The DM then stops talking and tries to convince me not to do it. I'm not budging. Roll dex saves. They all succeed naturally. Initiative gets rolled and battle starts. My own party is attacking me, and I'm trying to maybe take at least one NPC down with me. An NPC monk acts way out of initiative and uses Stunning Strike on me, DC 21. When I asked how he acted out of round, he said it's a ruling from 3.5. Anyway, the party calls me names out of game, and the enemy NPCs spare my sorcerer because the others were kind enough to suck up to them once again. The session ends and I call the DM privately, telling him that I thought it would be different this time, and if anything, it's gotten worse from last year. He assures me that things will change and to give it one last try. I agree because I had nothing better to do. So the next session came. We get into a huge combat that lasts 4 hours. Every round of combat took 1 hour. I kid you not, I went to sleep once I finished my round and put an alarm for 50 minutes later. It still took some time for my round to come up after I woke up. The rogue alone took more than 10 minutes to decide on her actions. Anyway, this is where the ruling really got out of whack. There was an enemy in front of me that had spent his round stabbing me with his daggers. Then in a straight line behind him, an archer tried to hit me. I tell the DM that I'm half in cover, to which he replied with, "Yes, the enemy in front of you ducks so that the archer has a clear shot." I told him that nobody can duck out of his turn, to which he replied with pack tactics. What even is that? Then an enemy wizard shows up. He tries to cast Hold Person on me. I cast Counterspell. Turns out he had a bunch of levels on Sorcerer, since he had Subtle Spell, so I couldn't counterspell him. Oh well, Wisdom save. I get an 18 and think I'm safe. DM informs me the DC is 20. 20 DC on a Wisdom save? Archmages have 17. Anyway, I get paralyzed, but I succeed the save the next round, so 2 hours later I can act. I tell the enemy spellcaster that I just want to talk. I thought I'd interrogate him for answers on who he is. I cast a fireball as a warning shot. I get 30 plus damage. The DM informs me that the enemy is now dead. It is way obvious that this guy is fudging rolls, making up stats and shifting them around to suit his narrative. That was the final straw for me. I announced that I will not be playing anymore and leave all the group chats. I'd also quit college a while back, so I never saw any of them again. It was by far my worst experience as a player, but at least I learned what not to do when I DM. The silver lining? This person knows exactly how not to DM. It's a shame they had to learn the hard way, but you really learn a lot from bad examples. Please let us know what you think and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel, All Things D&D. Our videos are posted every Tuesday and Friday, so stay tuned for more amazing Dungeons & Dragons content.